Hello. I love you, won't you? Tell me your name. Thank you. Welcome to another episode of Off the Beaten Path. I am your host, Reverend Hagen, and it occurred to me after our first broadcast that some of you might be saying to yourself, Hagen, who do you think you are? Who are you? Who are you to call yourself an expert in the world of the paranormal? Once again, I'm glad you've asked because I have some, you could say, 32 years experience in the field, but the reality is I had a deal when I was 19, took a few years off because I have problems, let's be honest, and then got back into it. I've always been fascinated by the paranormal as a kid. I had a UFO kind of experience when I was younger. Our parents were having a cocktail party. Yes, I'm that old when they still had cocktail parties. And we kids were out in the backyard goofing around about 9 o'clock at night. And in the hills, from where I live, we saw this light in the sky doing this kind of thing. Doing like right angles and being weird. But we didn't hear anything. Now, it was probably quite a few miles away, but we all kind of stopped and looked. I thought, God, that's really weird. Well, then the lights started coming our way. Dun, dun, dun! Yeah. And we all kind of started freaking out, and I remember looking in to my parents, because it was all glass walls looking out to the backyard. Sliding glass doors and that kind of thing. And they were all almost moving automatically, very slowly. I looked back, and we all got really, really scared. And then the light broke into two, and a small engine plane went over our house. Now, that's never happened before or since. Not just the lights, but planes never flew over our house. And we all kind of thought, well, God, that was really weird. It was just a plane after all. We go back inside, and it's almost 1 o'clock in the morning. The party's breaking up. Where are you kids been? It's time to go. They're herding all the other kids out. And it wasn't until years later that I really thought about that. I was actually reading Whitley Strieber's Communion and realized, oh, crap, because it was really freaking me out, and I couldn't get it. I'm like, yeah, it's a story on UFOs, but this is kind of goofy. But it really, the hindsight moment really shook me to the core when I realized, God, I have missing time. I have about 4 hours of unaccounted for time there, because it really seemed like this happened in the blink of an eye. And I was off and running. I met up with a buddy of mine, Charlie Mann, in the Army, and we started doing investigations on the weekends. We were stationed up at Fort Lewis, so we'd go down to Oregon. We made homemade EMF meters that we found the plans for online. The light lit up. There was a lot of EMF fields. I think we had an old tape recorder. And back in the day when you wanted to do EVPs, your tape recorder was like the size of an old Bible, and you're like pushing down the button. It was old tape recorders. Now, of course, the digital recorders are these teeny, itty-bitty little things, and EMF meters are through the chart and the whole 9 yards. But we went from having a really good time. We'd hear about a haunted spot. We'd go there with our stuff. We'd go, oh my God, we drink too much beer, and then we were like, we had to cut that out because it was like, all we're doing is partying. We're not actually doing any investigations. And then we really kind of got our feet wet. And we had both had paranormal experiences as kids. He had just one after another, really cool, crazy ghost stories. And then when I got out of the Army, and what happens in the Army is you kind of lose touch with people. We're still friends today via Facebook, and we see each other when we can. But I started Where Angels Fear to Tread, which is a paranormal investigation. But we take it very seriously, the investigation part. Look at the history of the house or the place. The history of the people. Is there a history of mental illness going on here? My kind of gig with the whole approaching an investigation thing is that I'll believe anything you tell me till you give me a reason not to. And I have a pretty good BS meter because of a misspent youth being kind of a dirtbag, to be honest. So I kind of know when somebody's full of crap, for the most part. But those aren't the kind of calls we get anymore. We used to get calls of, or we go to check out a haunted place, or we get a call saying, hey, something's going on, it feels kind of weird. Now we get the calls where people are genuinely afraid. And other paranormal investigators will contest to this. You'll have people that email you or call you at all hours of the night saying, "Oh my God, something's happening. I really need your help." And then the next day, when you say, "Okay," you call them back. "Oh, let's get to the bottom of this. Do you want us to start an investigation?" It's almost like a drunk calling for help. "Well, I think I might overreact a little bit because some time has passed. It's not nighttime anymore. It's not terrifying anymore. It's the light of day, and you're drinking a cup of coffee. So things seem maybe I was a little out of hand. But now it's the people that have long-term stuff. And basically they're just scared. We're just trying to help scared people. The only reason we're trying to get to the bottom of it is that if it is something paranormal, we want to find out what it is and what we can do to either get rid of it or make everything copacetic. Certain things you can't get rid of. I don't care what anybody tells you. There's certain portals and other kinds of things that they were there before the people, and they're not going. It's not going anywhere. So those are kind of my qualifications. Just about 30 years of experience in the field, the things that I've experienced. The other things, getting in touch with, actually, other paranormal groups and seeing the stuff that they've investigated. For me, it kind of comes down to this: the whole paranormal question, right? It's basically what happens when you die, and are we alone in the universe? The two hugest questions on the planet. Thank you very much. Other than who are you, existentially speaking. So, I've been made fun of this by my family and some of my friends for a very long time. But those are the two big questions, right? What happens when you die? And are we alone in the universe? And let me tell you, I've seen things that have never been human. In later shows, we'll get into some of those cases. I'll show you some of the pictures, maybe play you some of the EVPs, but it all depends. Most of my clients, they don't want publicity. Who wants to be known as the crazy people with ghosts? We'd like to think that we live in a world where that stigma doesn't exist anymore. But it would always be a stigma. I think, in Star Trek, they'd be like, "Do you hear about Geordi, man? He says he's got a ghost in his cabin." So, I think people are always going to make fun of people that find ghosts until everybody makes fun of that kind of thing until something happens to you. And then you call us. Not necessarily us, but a paranormal investigator out there to try to get some help, or you call your priest, your rabbi, whatever it takes. So those are my qualifications. That's what I've been doing in the paranormal. Please, again, hit like and subscribe. Share this with your friends. We're trying to get this up and running here. Obviously, this is a quality establishment we have going on here. We've spared no expense. So hit the like and subscribe button. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it. Our next episode is going to be on the Lady of Fatima phenomena that happened right around the same time as the Tunguska Blast, if you've been paying attention. The show after that, we're going to get into some recent sightings of cryptoids that have been going on not only in the Antelope Valley where I live, which is the high desert of Southern California, but kind of across the board lately. There's been a lot of weird sightings of a lot of weird creatures. And I'm not just talking about Donald Trump. I'm talking about some actual kind of terrifying things that people have been experiencing. So stay tuned, like and subscribe, and keep those heads up, my brothers and sisters.